In my most recent book, The Best of Yourself, I decided to have a chapter called Ego versus Spirit. How I see the ego, how I see spirit, how they work together, and how we can reframe a new way of seeing these ideas. And it was a new awareness for myself. But even since I wrote that chapter, I've had a completely new awareness since. And so I wanted to come on today and recap that chapter a little bit, but then I also wanted to share with you the new awareness that I've had since this book came out. So in the book, I really wanted to talk about this idea of the ego in a positive way. So traditionally, I have really read a lot of books, listened to episodes on podcasts and YouTube that have said that the ego is not a good thing and that it's a bad thing. And it's spoken about it in a negative way. And so when we think ego, we think, oh, she's got a really big ego, or we think, oh, the ego's running the show. And other people believe that ego is edging God out. And I think that there is another way that we can talk about the ego in a way that is more productive and allows us to see that our ego is important and our ego is valuable and our ego is the mechanism with which God does its work. And so without the ego, what are we doing here? And the personal mind, I like to call the ego the personal mind because it disconnects from some of the negative connotations around the word ego. So I'll say like the personal mind is running the show, or I'm all up in my personal mind. I will even joke and I will say that the ego is my human. And so I'll say, oh, I'm in my human again, and recognizing that I'm focusing on the observation in the 3D world. I'm having a human reaction, something like that. Many people have joked that I should have t-shirts that say, I'm in my human, watch out, I'm in my human. But what is the opposite then? What is this duality? The law of opposites or the law of polarity says that there's two sides to everything. And so we talk about the ego and spirit as two different things. You're either in your ego or you're in your spirit. So you're in your human or you're in your spirit. So when I say I'm in my spirit, what I mean by that is I am leading with love. I am leading with faith. I'm leading with compassion, with joy, with peace. That I'm really tuned in and tapped into my oneness, that I perceive and am aware of the God within, that I feel really connected. That's me in my spirit. And so inspired in spirit feels good. It's a state of flow. It's joy. Truth is operating in you when you're in a state of spirit, when you're connected to your oneness. You'll find yourself happier. You'll find that you'll play different types of music and songs, and that life feels effortless, and it even can start to feel magical. Like magic happens so easily. But then there's this other side of the ego, or being in the personal mind, or dropping down into my human. And so what I mean by that is obviously sometimes it means that I'm taking things personal. It means that my feelings are hurt. It could mean that I'm making something about me when it was never actually about me. It's also times when I might be angry or upset. It might be moments of fear or worry or doubt. It might be an experience where I feel wronged in some capacity, or someone's wronging me. Being in my personal mind or being in my human might be where I don't want to wrong you and I want you to like me and I want to people please. That might be when I'm in my human. And so it's really understanding this duality for yourself of when do I feel in spirit and in flow, and when do I feel like I'm in my human a little bit more. And when I'm living from my human experience, I find that I'm very focused upon the 3D world. I'm very focused upon the circumstances of my life, what's going well, what's going bad. I'm very tuned in and tapped in to the 3D visible world. And so sometimes I find myself heavily in my human when a circumstance happens, so something will happen. For example, it might be my top employee at my company gives their 30-day notice. And I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm in my ego. I'm smacking my human, dealing with a problem that I feel needs to be solved, and I move into that energy. And that might be okay. That might not be unproductive. But I notice the times when it's an unproductive use of my ego. So I'm offended, I'm hurt, I want to please people, I'm emotionally reacting, I'm not allowing myself to have grace and compassion. I'm judging myself. When you're in spirit, there's no judgment. There's acceptance. There's understanding. There's allowing. In the chapter of the best of yourself, I talked about how I do think that there is a benefit and a productive use of the ego and of the personal mind. So what I mean by that is my business, Diamond Academy Coaching Incorporated, is a coaching academy that was created to help people ascend and elevate into heightened versions of themselves and to experience life in a more profound way. So I answered my call to good in creating that business and creating the courses and the business opportunities to allow people the opportunity to step into their greatness. So I help people to awaken, I help them to elevate, and I help them to make their dreams come true. But in doing so, answering the call to good, Romans 8:28 comes to me all the time. This is my call to good. This is the way in which I am serving on a greater level, is through this work. But I used my ego to do that. I used my personal mind to do that. I had to say, Kathleen wants a new house. Kathleen wants $1 million business. Kathleen wants to help more people. Kathleen wants an extraordinary life for her daughters. Kathleen wants to drive this type of car. And so how I see it, and stay with me if you can, I see the Spirit guiding my ego. The Spirit is guiding my human to do the work that is needed to be done through the call to good. So in me wanting more for myself, in me allowing myself to tap into the best of myself, by me allowing myself to want more and be more and think more of myself and to love myself fully, I'm able to serve others on a higher level through this work. I now know that the more people that I help elevate in this life, the more I elevate in this life. It is, we receive what we give. And so it's my call to good. So I think that the personal mind and the ego can be a good thing. And I think it can be a very, very productive thing. It is the thing that had Oprah start her TV show, which has created this incredible impact around the world. Some of the world's most influential people, wealthiest people make the biggest impact. They start charities and they do philanthropy, and they're creating economies through the dreams that started in their heads. It is the dreamers that change the world. And those dreams are often built with the personal mind and with the ego. So this idea that you shouldn't have an ego at all and that you shouldn't think too highly of yourself and you shouldn't this and you shouldn't that, I would just challenge it. How can you use your ego for good? How can you use your personal mind for the betterment of others? How can you step into your greatness? And you know what? It's okay to want good things for your life. It's okay for you to say, hey, I want more peace in my life. I want more money in my life. I want to go on more vacations. And the more that we support and guide one another in having that human experience, the more that we elevate collective consciousness. So what is this new awareness that I've had then since I wrote that chapter? I really think it's incredible to be able to tap into and to come from the soul's perspective. This is something in the past, I would say 6 to 8 months, I've been really allowing myself to connect into the journey of my soul and to connect into my soul's perspective and the soul's knowledge. And so what that means is I will know things that I don't know how I know them. I will speak things and teach things to people, and I have never read it in a book. I just know it. And there's feelings in my body that I just know, and I don't know how that I know. And there's intuition and there's feelings that I just have and I know. And so trusting it and knowing that it is coming from my soul's knowledge has been a profound experience for me. And so now what I know to be true and what I feel deeply within myself is that we should be allowing our soul to guide our ego, not believing that the ego edges out God, but allowing God to do God's work through the use of our personal minds and through the use of our egos. So who's running the show today? Is it your human or is it your soul? Is it your spirit or is it the physical 3D body in this world? And what I found is once I created this duality and I allowed myself to step back and out of it, I can see that I live authentically and genuinely when my soul is leading my ego. And when I don't make it about me personally, but when I make it about the collective, when I make it about serving more people, when I make it about how can this decision I'm going to make today benefit my mother? How can this decision I'm going to make today benefit this person? And it might actually be, how can releasing this person from my life benefit them? What is the growth that comes from that? That might be what I ask myself. And so in that moment, I'm dropping the ego mind that tells me it's about me, and I'm letting it be about someone else, and I'm letting it be about a greater purpose. And so when the soul leads the ego, it also allows you to just go with the flow and trust that this shit show of a thing that's happening in my life right now is happening for good reason. And it gives us the opportunity to say thank you for the contrast, to say thank you for things going wrong, to say thank you for the awareness that this is not what I want for my life. And so when the soul guides the ego, you are in harmony with who you are. And I truly do believe that this is when our souls and our humans are functioning together beautifully. So instead of trying to get out of my human and be in my soul all the time, this is what I said to Neil Donald Walsh. I said, I don't want to experience my human, Neil. I want to be in my spirit 24/7. I just want to be happy all the time. I don't want to be down here. And he said, Kathleen, you must experience the wholeness of who you are, the entirety of the human experience. And now I get it. It's like 3 months later, it just sat and it merged, and I get it now. When my soul guides my ego, I am in wholeness. And I am in the fullest expression of who I can be. And so let's not have shame or guilt or feel some kind of way. Let's allow ourselves to be the wholeness expression of who we are. Even when we're in our humans or when we're up in our spirits, give ourselves grace, give ourselves compassion, and allow ourselves to just exist as who and what we really are. And to remember that the limit does not exist.